What is going on, guys? Armand here. Welcome back to the Cracked Lens podcast. I'm here with Michael and Cody. Go ahead, plug it.
What's up? Michael from Cobalt Studios PDX, also wedding photographer guy at Nilas Photography here in Portland, Oregon.
Thanks for having me, guys. Cody Keto Photography on Instagram, and I've been here for about 20 years.
Yes, amazing gentleman. Actually met a lot of great people through events that Cody hosts called, Portland Shooters. Super great. So, all right.
Yeah. All right. So today we're talking about some TikTok controversy.
Get started that way, yeah.
Yeah. So we posted a little snippet of a video from the last episode. And it was about giving clients raw files.
Yep. Or how you don't give clients.
Or how you don't give clients raw files, rather. And people were not happy about it. The trolls had some very, very strong opinions. But you know what was interesting? All the people giving their opinions weren't even photographers.
Yeah, and I feel like aside from like bots and trolls, there were people in there that do have a genuine confusion due to like a lack of a standard. But I feel like the photographers did ring through and agree. But yeah, tell us a little bit about those comments.
Yeah, we're gonna go straight to the comment section. All right, so one that really got me was raw files are property of the client as they paid for it, unless it is explicitly written in the contract that they aren't, but they still hold copyright over the images.
So, no.
No.
Entirely inaccurate. So, in fact, when you take a picture, the picture is yours. The copyright is in the camera. It's in the files you have later. And so it's 100% the photographer's copyright. And what we're selling to the client is copies.
Yeah. So unless it's written in the contract, right, assuming we're shooting for a client here.
Yeah.
Unless it's in the contract, the second you click the shutter button, you're the copyright owner.
So what is a case where it might be written in the contract?
Usually commercial work.
Commercial work.
Commercial work, or, you know, if, let's say you are shooting a wedding, right? Sometimes you're shooting a wedding for a company, like a wedding company, right? Because, I mean, you know, there's a lot of wedding companies that they just send out photographers all over the place.
I'm absolutely not down with it, but it's a thing.
It's
really
not
is.
like you're hiring an individual, you're hiring a wedding company.
Would strongly recommend against wedding photography companies because they'll throw any amateur with a camera in your direction anyways.
Pretty much, yeah. So in that case, that would be one where you don't own the copyright.
Okay.
Other than that, I mean.
But does the client, in that sense, own the copyright? Or at that point now, it's
the client doesn't own it. It's the wedding company that owns it.
Okay, so comment inaccurate. The other one, as we've talked about before, actually, is in a production, they might own the copyright.
Yeah, so if you're shooting like for a commercial brand, something like that, then they would most likely own the copyright.
Which makes sense.
Which makes sense.
It's a team effort.
Yeah, they got a vision board and they have everything already pre-planned.
They have like stylist vision boards.
Yeah, some sort of ad or.
Yeah. Usually like ad agencies, that might be a case where you're not owning the copyright.
But in
or the raw files.
In no case that I can think of does like a wedding couple own the copyright. Yeah. I haven't seen that before.
Never happens.
And that's just not the way that it works. And so let's see some more comments.
All right. So actually a follow-up to that one is you actually commented on it and said, not common in a contract. Amateurs offers raw.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. The only time that I've seen it like out and about or talked about like on social media is people will say, oh yeah, well I got the raws, I got this, I got that. Yeah. That's because you probably hired your cousin who has shot in like 2 or 3 weddings before and they're just willing to give you the raws.
Or somebody that's just new to the industry.
And
doesn't get it
doesn't have an idea of the standards.
Who's going to be able to process these raws?
Right.
What average person is going to have the ability to open a raw file, let alone process it?
Yeah, like some people might have, the means to do so, but in the common case, like a lot of people don't have enough storage space to have it on the computer. And even if you do, it's still just not not common. Yeah. You're not supposed to get the raw files. And so what I would say,
you know what it usually is? It's usually like someone gets their wedding photos, they don't like it, they talk to somebody who like dabbles in photography, and they're like, oh, just get the raw files from the photographer.
Yeah.
I've heard that so many times.
So many times.
Dude, okay, not a thing, right? Shouldn't be a thing. here's the thing. If you hire a professional photographer, you hire the right person, you're not going to have this issue. So in the
Exactly.
comments, I was seeing people say, like, I got too many black and whites for my wedding, or I didn't like the edits. So if you do your research, like up front in the beginning, you're not going to have these problems.
Yeah.
You're not going to need the raw files. You don't need to go cull 2,000 pictures to get those. That's a lot of work.
And if it's a minor fix in terms of like, I want this color instead of black and white,
Yeah.
tell your photographer.
Honestly,
like
just
easy.
reach
Like,
out.
it's not hard.
I have
Yeah.
a slight issue or something like that.
Yeah, just hit up the photographer.
Yeah.
So in no case should the RAWs be delivered to the client or delivered to especially another photographer. That's like a huge taboo no-no in the community. Like, you shouldn't have other photographers editing someone else's work. That's
No.
weird.
Yeah,
It's weird behavior.
not
Don't do
good.
it.
Unless you're shooting for a commercial brand, which they have editors for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Again,
That's the only exception.
Pre-planned though.
But-
Again,
Pre-planned.
And that's something that you would talk about
Yeah.
before you even shot for them anyway.
So here's the thing though. If you're someone who's looking to book someone, say for a wedding, you're a couple, you're looking for someone who's going to shoot your wedding, do your research and you won't have these problems. You won't need the RAWs. Find the right photographer, pay the money, and you get what it's worth.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. So the follow up to that comment is he said, I'm saying that if a client asks for them, you should give them because technically the client owns those files unless specifically excluded.
Well, it is
Wrong.
excluded
Yeah.
because it's not the way it works.
That's usually not the way it works. Yeah. So somebody else said, I just want the original unedited picture. I don't know if you keep a copy. I paid for a service. If you're not going to provide it, then I'll just use you.
The service was provided.
Yeah.
I don't know what use you means. The service was provided, and if you want what you said, hire an amateur.
And if you want something unedited, guess what? You're going to get an unedited JPEG
Yeah.
of that specific photo.
Yeah, it's going to be all washed out and raw looking and not good, and you're going to be mad about it.
Enjoy your flat image.
You know what I think a lot of people are thinking? They get their JPEG photo and it's like, it's just regular and colored like they shot it with their iPhone.
Yeah.
You know? I think that's where a lot of people get confused.
Maybe we're all just trained by Instagram filters, and it
I
doesn't
think
look
so,
Instagram-y
honestly.
enough.
And if you're not in the industry, please don't comment on things you don't know anything about.
Yeah.
True.
That's the hardest part.
Anyone who came in and dropped anything that was like, if they were a photographer, they all said the same thing. My favorite was about like, we don't deliver, like, what is it? What did they say? The chicken one?
Yeah, the chicken one.
It's like a chef doesn't deliver uncooked chicken, let us cook, and something
Yeah.
like that.
That's
Agreed.
beautiful.
Thank
That's beautiful.
you.
Yeah.
So wonderful.
I gotta find that comment. It was pretty great.
That's right at the top.
Oh, here we go. Raw photo files are like raw chicken breasts. A chef doesn't serve you a raw chicken breast, unseasoned and uncooked. Does he? Let us cook.
Let us cook.
Yeah. I mean, take it a step further, and like I said, if you do give them the raw files and they edit it, does it still become your property or your work?
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, you really have no control,
Yeah.
on the outcome.
Once someone else has taken something of yours and edited it too, and like to me, a wedding isn't all about like, I do want to provide a valuable service and deliver everything they need, and it's going to happen. But it's not just about like the art and them doing it wrong. It just does become a misrepresentation of your
Yeah.
work. I'm not worried
Yeah,
about
totally.
just not being able to use it. I don't want to be misrepresented.
And
because-
that includes already edited photos that
Yep.
people re-edit.
oh my God.
So
Talk about
Yeah.
that's a tough one as well. So like,
That is a tough one.
I never see that happen unless
It's very
it's
rare
been
now.
edited very poorly.
yeah,
I've had that happen before
It's-
on a photo that was like edited really awesome.
yeah.
It looks like it's some hallucinogenic picture when you're done.
Yeah.
What happened here?
Like
should be cool.
I took a photo for this bodybuilder, right? And the photo, like, it looked awesome. And then when he posted it, I'm pretty sure he put an Instagram filter over it. So his skin was all gray and like it just looked really bad.
Did he HDR it?
He might as well have.
That's always the fun one.
Yeah. Okay, one more comment.
One more.
Wholeheartedly disagree. The raw files should be provided. I paid for the photos. Editing tastes change over time, and I may not like your edits later and want to go with someone else.
Again, do your research before you hire a photographer. Go natural and timeless, and don't hire someone who's doing trendy. That's your own choice. You're choosing the photographer based on their editing style as well. So
Yeah.
if you chose something that's gonna like
But what the person's
diminish it.
saying is like, I might not like your editing style 6 months from now or a year.
So I'm gonna get someone else to edit it.
Yeah.
That's weird.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
That's
That's crazy.
crazy.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say about that.
That's weird. I mean, that's basically what happened with Sepia Gate.
Yeah.
That's literally what happened.
If it comes to that point and you don't like the edit anymore, pay them to re-edit the photos.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Hit them up. Hit up the photographer. I feel like a lot of the comments were directed from people who just don't like photographers because they don't think that we do anything except click a button.
Yeah.
Incorrect, but be bitter. Not my problem.
Spend 20 grand on gear just to click a button.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what I'm doing.
I mean, if for every 2 hours on the front end, whereas about 6 to 8 on the back.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. And so when you look at the hours that you put into it, it actually adds up for an experienced professional to be putting that kind of work in. Like,
Yeah.
that's what it costs. I mean, like, I love my mechanic, right? I could fix a car myself. I'd rather go to my mechanic and pay him money. And the hours it takes for him to do the work, with the tools he has, it makes it very easy. He's done pretty quickly. He makes a ton of money off of me. And I don't complain. I get a valuable service from it.
And you know it's done correctly.
And it's done correctly. And that thing he might have done might, last forever. It might be something that doesn't last that long. But honestly, when we're talking about pictures, and a lot of cases, especially if we're talking about weddings, that's like, you can't mess up. You get one chance. It's the only product that comes with you after a wedding day. And you're seriously going to sit here and tell me you're going to cheap out on it? That's a you problem, not a me problem.
Exactly.
So what do you say all the time about what you're worth, or you get what you pay for?
You get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for.
You do.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
So I think transcending away from the comments and all that, though, it just reminds me of the lack of standards that exist within our industry, because like we talked about before, the barrier to entry is so low that anyone with a camera is now a photographer. There's really, like, how do we even differentiate? Like, someone could have 10 really good pictures that they've gotten over a span of time, and they could be great pictures that are comparable to like a real professional's work, but that might be the only 10 they have versus the thousands and the experience this other person has. So it is really hard for a couple to come into it and say, okay, well, this person over here costs, I don't know, $5,000 for a similar job, while this person is charging like $800 or $1,000. And they go, well, obviously I'm going to save all that money. So it's really hard to vet photographers, and I think that's where a lot of the issues come from.
Well, and I mean, if you go based on experience, replicating a feeling in a photo is not as easy as it looks.
It is.
Like, you can look at a
So
photo,
true.
and if you don't know what you're doing, you will never get the same result.
Totally.
First of all, when we talk about portfolios and how it is really hard to show your work, a lot of people out there, and I think this is dirty, but they'll use styled shoots to, oh, this is a wedding couple, but really it's two models that are paired up together, and they know how to act that part and play that part.
They're just actors.
And they sell it. They make it look good. And then the consumers, the couples, and the whatever, for what it is, not just weddings, but all of this, they see whatever this is, and they're like, oh, wow, this person's really good at capturing emotion and capturing these feelings, or whatever they're trying to sell. And so obviously with the price point and with the way that looks, it seems obvious, like, this is the person because it's affordable, all this. But over here on the other end, you probably have someone these are like real emotions and real feelings. They're not like, I mean, if you're doing commercial work, it could be with models and stuff, but say you're working on like lifestyle end, wedding end, that's real emotions and real feelings and stuff like that. That's a huge deal. So you really have to be looking at more than just the beginning set of pictures and the price point. You have to understand what it is you're trying to buy. It's like researching a car. It's an investment. So
Totally.
But I think finding somebody that can help you get to that emotional state is big.
Yeah.
Especially in
huge.
the wedding industry. Like, if you can't work with a couple and get them to a point where they're comfortable
dude,
being there
Yeah.
in front of a camera and just vibing
yeah.
on that spectrum, like, there's no way.
It
There's
is,
absolutely no way. And there's
Totally.
nothing that gets you past that other than experience.
I was literally
Yeah,
just...
gotta have the experience.
You have to. I was just filming a commercial for my wedding stuff, actually. I'm trying to educate people and tell them the same things, right? And it's like, the technical skills is like not even half of it. It's the experience behind it. And honestly, I'll call it a vibe check. A vibe check. I've had clients that I don't vibe with before, or potential clients, and I've said, I'm not your guy. I would rather send you someone else, or send you to someone else because you can have better results. But like, you have to be able to find someone that you mesh with as well to be able to get those emotions to come out. If it's just a fucking awkward experience, you're not going to get there.
If nobody's comfortable, then it's apparent.
Then it's weird.
Like video, photo, doesn't matter what it is. If you can feel it in the room, you can see it on whatever the medium is.
Totally.
So,
An extension of that too, like if you're looking for a photographer that's going to capture some personal moment in your life or something like that, you should probably at least do your best to meet them and talk to them and have some experiences with them. Like if it's weddings, have an engagement shoot, or at least sit down for coffee or dinner and don't just talk about the wedding and the plans or your session or whatever it's going to be. Talk about hobbies and stuff like that, because you really do have to click with your photographer. It is much more than just taking pictures and clicking a button.
Yeah.
So anyone who comes at me and says you just click a button for work, it's full shit. Like, it's a lot more than that.
It's so much more than that.
Well, and I think the opposite side of it, coming from like the client standpoint, is like, this is not going to be a one and done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you find somebody that you can work with, get along with, stand in front of a camera with, they're not going to be there for just your wedding. It's going to be your wedding. It's going to be your kids' photos. It's going to be newborn stuff. It's going to be whatever that spectrum may be. It's going to be this lifelong relationship.
Yeah, you can see them every year, every 6 months, every 2 years,
family photos, everything.
They become a part of your life. And so, like, that whole finding a photographer process is a lot more than just looking at, the budget too. And a lot of people will say, well, that's unreasonable because I know my lifestyle and I don't have like a high budget. Then it's harder to find a photographer, but I'm honestly not saying it's impossible either. I'm not going to be that photographer who charges a little more and says, you can't find someone down here. I'm not going to bullshit anyone. Like, you can, but you really, really, really need to vet the process and find the right person. And if it's a newcomer or someone up and coming, like if someone comes to me and says, I can't afford you, I try to find them someone who might be newer, but I trust the value of the work. And honestly, I don't know what it's like wherever other people live, but if you find a photographer and say, honestly, I can't afford you, is there anyone that you could recommend that like maybe is starting up, but that you trust the quality of their work? And try that. Because those people need to build a portfolio, and they might not stay in your price point forever, but don't just go after random people on the internet. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's no good.
Yeah. Nightmare clients.
Nightmare clients.
All right, before it's just all negative, though, let's talk. Well, this is kind of negative, but it's also funny. So I won't say nightmare clients. I'll say something, though, that happened at a wedding that was kind of crazy.
Let me preface this.
Yeah.
For every nightmare client, we've got 50 amazing clients.
That's true.
It's a sliver.
It's not a widespread, I hate every single client I work with.
Absolutely not.
It's never that way.
It's never that.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
So-
It's usually like, let's say within a whole year of work, there might be only like a couple bad ones.
Yeah. And
or maybe only like one bad one.
And it might be like one every 3 years. It's never going to be like a consistent thing.
It's never all the
like
time.
All of you internet trolls, when you see that we're talking about nightmare clients, it's not all of our clients are nightmares. It's this one time out of the last 5 years.
In fact, I love the majority of that.
100%.
Yeah, like
I love every single client.
All my clients are awesome. And honestly, I've been doing this for like 12 years. I only have a couple stories.
I'm struggling to find stories. That's why I want to jump into something.
I have one crazy one, which was not pleasant, but that's 20 years worth of shooting.
Can you talk about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear it. You start.
This one was an interesting one. So my good buddy that I've known since like freshman year of high school. So to preface that, I'm 40.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 22 years ago. His cousin needed photos for her it was more of like a violin orchestra type setup. Anyway, prima donna, not the greatest person in the world, very shifty, just in general. So I should have known going into this that it wasn't going to be the greatest experience. But got to the shoot, she showed up an hour late. I was already
Bad start.
past a little irritation, which is fine, As a new shooter, we move past that stuff. Mm-hmm. She ended up changing 4 times and taking about 30 minutes between each change. So this shoot that was supposed to be 2 hours ended up being like 5. And as a new shooter, again, you don't take too many liberties to shut that down, because you're brand new. You're trying to make sure you get the client happy. Like, you also need portfolio stuff. So you're like,
it's some desperation.
Fine line struggling.
This is a desperation shoot at this
fine line
point.
struggling. So then the shoot ends. We get all the stuff that's done, which is great. I'm super happy with what came out of it. And come to find out, she's been bashing me online for a solid year.
Oh no.
And telling me that my edits are just presets, and that's all I do is put little filters over all my shots and call them my own, which has no bearing at all. And then come to find out, she's trying to pit my good friend that I've known since high school against me because they're cousins. So it was very, very nightmarish.
That's awkward.
Last straw was she hit me up for her wedding, and I shut her down. And as soon as I shut her down and said, "You can't afford me," in a very nice way, the bashing got worse.
Oh no.
So not only was it a nightmare client, it's someone that I've actively seen over the last 20 years.
It's the worst too, because when you're working with the newer photographer, you have to have a little grace, right? And then to go and just bash them when you're at the beginning, that's dirty.
That was horrible.
That's dirty. Don't do that.
Luckily, it was the beginning of, kind of where I started, so no detriment to anything.
Take it as a critique instead.
It's a little
Take it as a learning lesson.
Yeah, it's a little different when it's in the beginning of your career versus like 20 years into your career.
Yeah.
20 years is a little bit harder to eat.
But apparently it sticks around.
It does. It does. It does.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a tough one.
What do you got?
What do I got?
Yeah.
As far as like photography nightmare stories.
Video's cool.
I have more video nightmare stories than photo.
I think there's a lot more like back and forth communication trying to attempt to plan those sorts of things.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So I talked about it a little bit on another episode, but I'll just tell the whole story. So I got hired to do post color for a feature film, right? And feature film is 90 minutes. So, like something you'd see in a theater.
Yeah.
And it was for an older couple, right? And this was, I think, like only their second movie they've like ever made. And the whole time they were comparing how US movies look versus like British movies and like their coloring. And I'm just like, okay, this is a little weird. And this whole project lasted a whole month. And they would come over, they'd sit down, they'd color with me, right? So imagine like 8 hours of someone sitting over your shoulder being like +1 contrast.
Oh man.
Yeah, right? So it gets even better. Every single day that I would color something, I would like export it, send it to them, right? And they were sitting next to me the whole time. I would get paragraphs of like, "You ruined our movie, this is the worst movie. Like you
Botched it.
you've botched it pretty much," right? And she would take what I colored and recolor it and send it back to me and be like, "I'm just gonna learn coloring, why do we even hire you?" Like all this stuff, right?
Give me the raws.
Yeah. Like, well, luckily they already own the raws.
Production, yeah.
Yeah. But eventually I went to their house, right? And this happened like a ton of times over the month. Like, she just kept coloring things and sending them back to me, be like, "We need it like this." I'm like, "Well, you already did it if you want it like that." It's like I had no artistic freedom, no nothing, right? And eventually I went to their house. Oh, one part I forgot was that they said, "We need this to look good on every single monitor. It has to look consistent on every monitor, even the worst looking monitor." And I'm like, "That's not possible."
Yeah,
it's straight up not possible.
Just different things.
Yeah. Obviously, they didn't know what they were doing. And I went to their house finally at the end of it, right? And I saw what monitor they were coloring or watching it on. This monitor was so bright and so faded and washed out, it would look terrible. And I told her the entire time, I was like, you have to go based off of my monitor. This is the best monitor. It's like the only way.
It's calibrated for.
Yeah, it's calibrated. It's high end. You go out based off this. You get it as good looking as you can, and then it just translates, right? We can't control what other people are watching it on.
Yeah, they're used to watching on that. Too.
Yeah.
If your monitor's not calibrated, like
Yeah.
how can you control?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's something we got to talk about sometime. Is the technical things like you got to edit to the standard. So
Yeah. So it was a whole month of that, and it was a little bit of a nightmare.
that is a lot of bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, and it was a lot of money too. So I'm like, oh man, like I
Can't
hope
give
I
it
get
up.
paid.
You can't give it up either.
Can't give it up. We didn't sign a contract until 2 weeks in, which was a little shady.
Well, sometimes we don't know too. Like, or I feel like I sometimes avoid. Or not avoid. Sometimes I forget contracts, or like
Can't forget contracts, guys. Can't forget that.
I'm like ADHD brain, like just an artist, whatever, right?
Can't
So
be having that.
I totally forget about contract, but it does bite you in the ass all the
It
time.
does.
And I had that recently a little bit, but they weren't a client. It was like a trade thing, and we had to tell them to stop using the image, and they actually did. So I won't even talk about it much, but. I'm sad because I loved the images and I wish I had a model release, but I didn't get one, so now I'm uncomfortable using the pictures.
Yeah.
Well, you can't
Probably
without
uncomfortable.
feeling weird about it.
I'm just gonna, yeah. It just, that's weird situations though, so that's not really a nightmare. That's just kind of like, that sucks. And sucky things happen. I'm trying to think of a nightmare story for you guys.
It's okay.
I honestly, I don't have too many. Like, but I will say something that is a nightmare to me, but it was a huge learning point too. But it was like, it got me. But I don't know if I've addressed this yet. I did a shoot once, though. It was a wedding, and I could tell at the shoot, I'm very like, I advertise. I'm very laid back. Like, I try to like keep things chill, and I don't want to be like a stressor on the day. I'm not trying to make the whole thing about a photo shoot, but we do have our portions where we do, couples pictures, group pictures, and there are other points throughout the day where I'm like, this is photo time, but I try not to drag it on. Anyways, we're doing the group pictures, and it seemed to go pretty good. We get all the group pictures done. They were kind of hard to pose and move, but that's on me. I'm the photographer. I got to like control things. It's your job. But anyways, I felt like everything went pretty smoothly. It's pretty average, right? But then later when we were going over pictures, I don't remember why, but I ended up saying like, yeah, if you want to look at some, because maybe I think she wanted some extras, and I wasn't going to send raws. So I said, come over and we'll review pictures, and I'll see what else I have. And she comes over, and she was super nice. We had a great talk. We looked at pictures. She said, oh, there are some, I like this variation or whatever. And I said, no problem. Let's work these in. And so we swapped the pictures. And then I remember at the end of the conversation, though, she was like, I don't remember what you said exactly, but it transcended into like, essentially, if I had to go back and do it again, I would hire someone else. And I had never done anything like that. She was just so like, yeah. And I was like,
so you actually suck.
why? Why? And
It's like the worst thing you could tell someone.
basically, she was so nice about it. But she was like, I think just for us personally, what we needed was someone that is like more comfortable telling us like exactly what to do. And I know that's not your vibe, but I just feel like if I could have chose someone else, I would have chose someone else.
But again, that goes back to what you said earlier about doing your research.
So
Like,
but at the same, so it was kind of like she wasn't super upset either. It wasn't like some huge issue. And I've had times, I won't lie, where people were like upset and there's just like miscommunications and things aren't going well, and I'm like trying to explain it and it's not working out. I have one bad review. And I tried everything to make that better, and like I don't know even what is happening on the other end, and I'm getting mixed messages. So there are nightmare clients. I don't want to bash on that one because it's honestly just like
just a small miscommunication.
It's but this is over 250 weddings. I haven't had much go wrong.
Good.
Well, that's good.
There was one time though, this wasn't even a me thing, but it was a nightmare for like the bride if we're talking about that kind of stuff. But she wanted this picture where she was holding her little dog. And the little dog was all nervous about all the people around. And little dog diarrheas all over the wedding dress.
Oh,
So that's a nightmare if that counts for anything.
On the
that's
plus side,
great.
you can edit it out. but-
Yeah, right. I have spot removal, but out there at the ceremony, you just her dad was like on it. He was like Superman. He jumped and grabbed the stuff. But that's wedding stories, right? But
Yeah.
I feel like it's like I felt like it was part me because she wanted those pictures, and so I'm like trying to get the dog to do it just right, but you can't control a dog, so.
Stuff happens, man.
But and shit happens. There's
Literally.
yeah, shit happens. It did. It really did.
Literally.
It was pretty gross.
So on Instagram, we got a couple people weighing in on their nightmare stories.
All right, let's hear them.
Okay, so one of them is my photos were stolen, used for an ad, and the company threatened to blacklist me.
Oh my God, tell me what company that is so we can just blast the shit out of them. I wish.
How does that even happen?
No, so it is. How are they going to blacklist you?
I don't know.
Unless they're massive.
Maybe.
You just get the pics and then block them and don't allow any. That's evil.
That's pretty bad. It happens though.
It does. Well, I mean, like.
You know where it mostly happens is when it's a foreign company, like not in the same country.
Because like the legality, you can't do anything about it.
It just makes the legal process that much harder.
Well, there's tons of image theft and stuff out there. That's a whole we could do a whole episode on.
Yeah, that's a whole another episode.
That's crazy because, I mean, I'm sure every one of us has had people take our images and put them on Pinterest with a filter and throw it out there. But for a company to do it, like,
happens all the time.
that's, I mean, yeah. I guess a lot of people who are also doing it online, like the people who take your picture and repost it, they probably get monetary value because they have big followings.
Yeah.
And stuff, so.
Even if you copyright your photos, which is just another layer of protection if you were to go to court with it.
Yeah.
That copyright only works in certain territories. So like other countries that support the same copyright laws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it may not even hold up in general.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Especially if you're signing a contract.
yeah,
and
exactly.
What I
It's
gather
a whole
from
thing.
the type of people who comment and talk about this stuff or respond, they don't think our work is valuable anyways. So
Yeah.
the same opinions could be in the minds of company holders and obviously the scammers out there. So it's just like, I mean, I don't put watermarks on everything, but do everything you can.
I don't think watermarks even do anything anymore.
Not anymore.
Honestly,
No, that's like a old
Generative
school thing.
fill.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. Honestly, I think
There's even like cell phone apps to remove watermarks.
that's twisted.
Yeah.
Even on video.
Even on video now too.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so watermarks, don't even waste your time.
It's a crazy world, man. What else we got?
So anonymous
Okay.
had regular clients that I did a wedding for. Their guests treated my second shooter like shit, were so rude to us, and then the couple didn't even pay on time.
What do you do? Like, I actually don't know. What do you do when you're on site, like at an event or say a wedding, and they're just like being shitty to you? Like, okay.
You call Cody to come in, he'll take care of it. Cody always gets paid on time.
Experience, most of the time people just listen to what I say. But
We know why.
side note,
You're not soft and weak like the rest of us.
that's tough, man. That's a tough avenue to head down.
The answer, face tattoos.
Yeah.
Face tattoos.
Face tattoos.
Face tattoos.
Works every time.
Yeah. Honestly, though, so that's shitty. And the paying on time, that's a separate thing. So that's just a twofer, but not cool. I've had people not pay on time, but that's because I'm too lenient. So
Have you ever had someone not pay at all?
yeah, but they didn't get their pictures. There was one time a long time ago, and I can't even remember what the images looked like, but I know one time I delivered pictures and was like, oh, they haven't paid yet. Hey, can you pay me? And then, no,
Crickets.
crickets. And there was one time where I sent the pictures out, but the download option wasn't there, so they could have actually screenshotted them, I guess, or and used them in that way. But it was an engagement session on the coast here in Oregon, and they lived in like Colorado or something, and they flew out here, and they got their pictures done, and they asked to pay me that day, and I was like, nah, we'll do it later.
I would never say no when they're willing to pay on
I
the
know,
spot.
I do these things. I hate talking about money.
But when it's offered to you on the spot, then it becomes
I'm
not weird.
really awkward, Armand. I don't like talking about money. Anyways, I was like, Venmo me later, and I never got Venmoed, and so that's my fault.
So you're still waiting on that Venmo?
So waiting on the Venmo. Please.
Hit them up.
I have children. Pay me. Just because I say that the rates for the weddings seem to be a lot, or you think photographers are paying.
Just text them
We
right
don't
now.
make that much money. Give me the money.
Just text them right now. Send them a picture of Cody. Be like, "Where's my money?"
Where's my money? Face tattoo coming to your house.
Yeah, we're coming to your house right now.
I'm flying to Colorado. That's true, actually. We're going to Colorado. Anyways,
There you go.
but the not paying on time, that happens. I actually have someone right now from a wedding, but I think that they're just really bad at emails, and I'm sure that she's going to see it. Because previously, she was already like, oh my God, I'm sorry I didn't email you earlier. And I'm like, it's okay. We're doing the wedding. And it's happening now with the payment part where I'm like, hey, I got to get paid so I can send your pictures. And I know they're going to pay. It's been like a week now. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's still very stressful, though.
it is
very
stressful.
stressful.
Because I do have things in the past. I'm like,
Yeah.
this could happen with the wedding.
But you learned from that past experience, and you didn't deliver the photos, which
Yeah.
is huge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't deliver photos unless you pay. Like,
So I have a nightmare story about that. I
Okay.
did everything wrong.
yeah.
So I shot this wedding, right? And let's just say there were some challenging lighting situations until the party. The party was fine. But everything before then, it was little right? So shot this wedding, and I was working with my friend, so he was like the middleman, and he was handling the contract that didn't exist. So we didn't have a contract. Everything was very word of mouth, right? And he's like, yo, we need those photos. So sent him the photos. Never got paid.
That's tough.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not the front
Yeah.
runner.
Yeah.
Running everything.
And apparently, according to the guy, he didn't like the photos. At first, he was like, oh, like, I don't actually have the money to pay you, blah, blah, blah. And then my friend kept arguing with him. And then that turned into, actually, I don't like these photos.
Yeah, that doesn't.
But he,
matter.
right, but he still had them. And my friend is like, no, you got to pay us, right? So he took him to small claims court. Never got paid because we didn't have a contract.
The contracts.
Contract's very important.
And as we both said, don't deliver photos like that. That is your safeguard. Like even if you don't have a contract, but
Yeah.
your safeguard is making sure that you hold on to the client's photos until they've paid. So just practice that. That's honestly common practice. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my mistake. I was pretty early into it, you know?
and that'll happen. So
Luckily, it wasn't like a huge paid wedding. But I mean, still taking the L on money is still money, you
the
know?
principle. And to me, it's not even about the amount. It could be a $100 job or a $10,000 job.
Yeah.
It's the principle of the fact.
It's a
Totally.
respect level.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's not like I'm not trying to yell like you need to value photographers. Value anyone. You don't walk
Yeah.
out of the store with an item
Right.
like, and if you do, then I hope it's corporate. Dude, okay, something a second ago from that there was the what do you say? It was not paid and then treating like shit.
Yeah.
So
Getting treated poorly.
The
yeah.
treating like shit thing, it reminded me of some things, and it wasn't bad, but there have been some inappropriate situations, and I am really awkward. Like,
Those are tough.
I'm fine.
That is tough.
Those are tough, man.
If someone flirts with me, though, I'm like, like I'm bad at it. But one time, the drunk bridesmaids, right?
Oh, no.
Some people might like this story in a different way, and that's weird. But I was sitting there, little me. I'm like much younger. It's earlier in my wedding career, and I'm like taking my candids and stuff. Oh, there's a mic on there. I'm taking my candids and stuff, and one of the bridesmaids comes up. She's like, "Oh, I have this angle for you. Let me just put you here." Then she grabs my arm and she like sits me on the ground. I'm like, what is happening right now? And then she's like, "Shoot up this way." And I'm like, what am I? Oh God, I don't know what I'm doing. And then she throws her dress over me and my camera, and I was like, what the fuck? Like what just happened? And then another bridesmaid's like, and she runs up and does it, and literally 4 bridesmaids did the same thing, and I was like frozen. I'm like so awkward. I'm just like,
I would be so awkward in that situation, too.
I just need to get up. And literally the 4th girl, I remember, like I was like trying to just like awkwardly get up and walk away, and she puts her arm or her hand on my shoulder and like sits me back down. And I was
Like, no, it's my turn.
and then I was like, I'm just gonna walk away. And the bride actually came outside like stressed because I walked outside, and she was like, I cannot believe them. They're so drunk. I'm so sorry. And I'm like, I don't care. Just like, I don't want it to affect you.
The worst part,
I don't.
too-
I mean, I don't care. Like,
The worst part too is they probably were just like, "Oh, we're just kidding."
yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
And it's like, imagine if it was a bunch of like, I don't know,
Imagine if it was the other way around.
Dude doing it to a female, like,
Yeah.
it would be
hey, let me take your picture.
the end of the wedding. It'd be the end of the wedding.
It would be.
Be the end of the world.
It would be really bad. But now I've had other people like flirt on me, but that's like the worst. I've mostly just seen other things, but it reminded me like that is treating someone like shit to make them feel awkward and uncomfortable. Like in the end, I'm not like super offended by it. It was just like it put me in an awkward position because of the situation. So don't do that to people. But like I'm not scarred from it. Obviously, I don't care at all. But like I don't know. I'm just thinking of things that happen at weddings now or at events, and I'm like, there's a lot of. I think the harder thing, it's not a nightmare story, but sometimes it drives me nuts to have to deal with the wrong clients. Like earlier, like I said, you do vibe checks. Sometimes you work for the clients and you're there and you're doing the shoot and you realize like, damn, this is not for me. Like I hate being here. And I don't know if you guys have experienced that, but I've had shoots where like I was just desperate for money in the beginning, right? I remember one dude hired me off of Craigslist. He found me on Craigslist and I didn't know anything except it was a branding shoot. And so it was a $200 job. The job was in Bakersfield. I lived in Tehachapi, California, which is like 45 minutes on the mountain. My truck is not doing great at the time, but I'm stressed. I need money. And I remember I drove my truck down the mountain, and I go to this job, and I pull up to like the address, and it's a mansion. It's like this. It's like all of a sudden I'm in this like walled area. I go in. It's like super nice. I pull in, and the dude's got this mansion, and I'm like, oh. Like, this is crazy. At this point in my life, I've never seen anything so fancy. And I'm like, okay, like, so where are we shooting? He's like, well, actually, we're going to the airstrip, but I was going to ask if you would caravan with us because I have my cars and I need you to drive, like, in the front or the back or whatever because I have supercars and I can't have them just, like, open where people can hit them. So I'm like, what is happening? Like, I'm here to take
barricade?
Yeah, I'm here to take pictures. And then he pulls out like a McLaren. The dad's got a Rolls Royce. They've got this like Porsche hybrid thing. There's like $500,000 of cars that just got pulled out of their garage and we're going to the airstrip now.
That's way more than that.
Dude, I don't even know. Like, I'm not fancy.
Wait, so he had all those cars in a mansion. You only paid $200.
That's exactly what I'm saying. So we go to the airstrip and they pull out a private jet. No joke. I'm like, what is going on? And I
underbid that job so hard.
I didn't know, crazy. But I do so much, like I'm doing all these shots for them. They got this like new energy brand coming out or whatever. They've already got like 8 other giant businesses.
That sounds cool.
It was an interesting experience. So I shouldn't complain about it too much. But at the same time, I'm like, you have so much money and you're handing me $200? And so the whole time I felt uncomfortable because I'm like, you guys are assholes. I don't want to be here. I want to leave.
They got the deal of the century.
Dude.
So let's say you were getting paid more, right? Like $2,000.
Yeah.
Then how would you feel about the job?
Pretty cool. I would still.
It's not awkward anymore.
Feel uncomfortable, but the fact that they had all of that and they just like, here's a P. I'm like, I don't like you guys because of that principle.
Was the uncomfortability, was that experience-based uncomfortability, or was that like just not?
I think it was like, I don't vibe with the attitudes too. Yeah. I think I could have dealt with it for more money. I still wouldn't have liked it, but the pretentiousness that existed behind it, it was like not worth how degrading it felt. Because like literally, I mean, and they didn't know this, so I guess this is just in my head, but I remember I pulled up in my janky, it's out front, my 93 Ford F-150. It's squealing. And like the doors never open right. I gotta like roll the window down, but the thing comes off, so I like put it on. So
your car is rolling up and it's just like farting along.
Yeah, pretty much. Everyone's gonna think I'm in this neighborhood to steal shit.
Right.
Hey, get this tweaker out of here. Like, it looked bad. Yeah. And so I was really uncomfortable, but I think it's because like even in seeing that too, like if you're rich as shit, like at least tip a little bit. Oh, but 100%. There was nothing. And
yeah,
so,
tip like 100% on top of it.
Yeah. Not a nightmare story per se, but
a tough one for sure.
An awkward experience.
But that's a Craigslist story.
That's a Craigslist honestly, story.
I wish we could sit down with people who have used Craigslist
because you could do 10 days with
yeah, so many stuff. Yeah. So many Craigslist stories. Oh my god, yeah, that's a different beast, man. But yeah,
that's crazy.
What else you guys?
That's a good one.
That is a good one. I don't have too many awkward stories because most of my stuff has been like corporate or commercial, and it's all like straightforward and boring.
I feel like corporate stuff is actually like I learned recently because I don't do too many headshot sessions, but it's like it's kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Like
Headshots? Oh, yeah.
yeah,
You just did one at Intel, right?
yeah. I did some intel for some of their engineers there. I did like a mini session of that.
Yeah, how was that?
It was cool. It was cool. It was a really cool experience.
There's
to
a
go.
hesitation there.
Yeah, well, it was different. So I'm trying to think of what to say, but everyone seemed very timid. But it's a bunch of Intel engineers, and it's
Yeah.
not in a bad way, you know.
They're not
but
models.
It's
right?
also not like a lifestyle session. It's not like supposed to be fun. It's like it is kind of awkward. So I think corporate sessions are just awkward.
Yeah, they're just very,
They are
very straightforward, you know.
boring.
No creativity. Just
Yeah.
very,
Everything we're saying, though,
Monotone.
It all this just reminds me of how cool it is to be a photographer in the first place.
Yeah.
And it's just like we have to do so many different things. I'm like thinking about the progression of my life, and I've like thinking about going to that mansion for the first time and being like, "Whoa, this is crazy!" And then
See, now you'd be stoked on it.
Yeah.
now I go to different crazy places all the time, and it's just like it's a work day, but it's like you forget how special it is to be in some of the places. And it's like a huge day and the guests are like, wow. And then you're like, oh yeah, I've been to this venue before, or I've been to this place before.
Yeah.
But you get to have so many really cool experiences and deal with some stuff that it does really help you grow just as a person in general too. So
Yeah.
What's like the coolest experience you've had as a photographer? Like
do
coolest
you-
coolest job.
answer that question.
Job or
Oh my God.
experience.
I got one.
Okay, what is it?
I went to London last year for 2 weeks to shoot street art for
Nice.
2 weeks with 4 of my homies that are street artists here in Pacific Northwest. One just moved to New York, but yeah, 2 weeks and just shooting street art, walking around, doing murals and galleries and restaurant in Paris, like all sorts of
That's cool.
crazy spaces that I would never have access to
Yeah.
outside of, you know, having these good friends that, you know, helped me
These opportunities.
get to that point. So
Yeah.
it was a crazy one for sure.
How about you?
I mean, now that you said like, oh, it's like with London, I'm like, okay, well, where have I been? One time, I don't know if it's my favorite time, but it was a really cool experience. So like, I posted this thing on Facebook because I was tired of like pretending. I always pretended to be like whatever a wedding photographer is supposed to be, and I got so fed up because it wasn't working. So I did this post, put worst wedding photographer in all of human history, and a link to my website, and I just threw it in Facebook groups, like, see where this goes. And the same night, someone like went to my site and they called me and they said, hey, would you come to a wedding in Kauai?
Oh,
And I was like, this is bullshit.
Hell yeah.
This is bullshit. Sure as
It
shit.
worked.
It worked, and I went to Kauai, and I remember like the stress. That's actually a nightmare story because I had to do LAX,
Dude.
and then from LAX to Phoenix, and they put us in the air, and we flew around, and like, what the hell is happening? And they announced that we had to land because of some fuel issue, but we had to burn off fuel, and then they put it down, and then they got everyone hotels. I'm like, I have to be in Kauai at 8 in the morning to get started on a wedding day. I have to go, and then everyone else got their things, but me and my partner at the time, we stuck around, and they put us on like multiple transfer flights. Anyways, we got there, but it was so like I've never been. You've been all over. You've been places
been
I don't know.
everywhere.
where all you've
travel
been.
weddings are stressful.
They are.
It was a lot, and I used to do it like when I moved to Oregon. I had all my California weddings booked, so it was like back and forth and flights and tight deadlines and that. But Kauai, we got there, everything was fine. I was tired. I actually there was this whole day, you know, like there was a boat ride up a river. They got married by a waterfall. It was like very intimate. They were a little bit older with kids that were like teens, and so it was just me and my ex were hanging out with them all day and just roaming around, and it was incredible. And then they had like a luau and you know, like a fire show, and I was so tired because the flight that I'm sitting there watching these fire dancers and just like. And I've been like hiking all day, and I fucking fell asleep next to them. Like, and they probably thought it was, you know, funny because they knew I was just like beat to shit.
You were dead.
But it was a beautiful experience, honestly, and honestly, like meeting people like that too. I think overall, my favorite part about what I get to do is have these experiences with I like my wedding work. I like working with couples and honestly trying to be there for them and not just feel like a service provider. But I really do make it a goal to like get connected as much as I can and be someone that's there to support them and not make it feel like a photo shoot. And that feeling makes me feel really good about myself and what I get to do. And so that part is my favorite part of anything, of the experience behind just being that.
Right.
So
my coolest experience was shooting a rocket launch for Columbia Sportswear.
You
would bring this up.
It was a cool job though.
It was pretty sick.
It was pretty sick. Honestly, job of a lifetime. So this was back in February, I think.
I'm really happy I got to know you while that happened.
Right.
Because I got to like see a little bit about it.
Yeah, so this company called Intuitive Machines, they built a rover that was going to the moon. And it's the first time we've been to the moon in 50 years, right? Because I guess NASA hasn't been doing the space program, like going to the moon and stuff.
Yeah.
And this company was pretty much like, we're going to land on the bottom of the moon where nobody's ever been before. And they had a bunch of companies like in the running, right? Like, who's going to give us the technology to like keep this rover warm and functional, right? And it was Columbia Sportswear.
Hey.
Yeah. So Columbia's logo is all over this rover.
That's crazy.
With their like Omni Heat technology or whatever.
Getting to work for.
Yeah.
Where you are.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, it's another story. So the job was pretty much like, we're out there in the dark on a boat, 4 miles from this rocket. We didn't know the boat was running out of gas.
Oh.
So we're in between the swell. The boat is shaking like this. I'm shooting on a 600 millimeter, which I didn't even need to bring that lens, honestly. The 100 to 400 would have been fine. But the guy turned on the stabilizer for like 2 minutes. He's like, that's like all we have gas for, but he didn't tell us at the time. So we're shaking all over the place. This rocket's going off. It went from night to day outside.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I had it on auto ISO because I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to shoot this at, right?
That would be so stressful.
It was pretty stressful because you only get one chance to shoot it.
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. So
the rig you had. I'm sorry. It
was crazy. But we shot it and it was good. Columbia was happy. And, we get back and then the guy told us about like, okay, the boat's was running out of gas. He was like, we were 3 minutes away from this boat running out of gas and we were stuck out there.
It's like, high fives.
Yeah, I guess the owners of the boat didn't fill up earlier that day.
Dude.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if all of the work that you had put in to prep for that and get out there, and the dude's like, got to put the gas in.
Yeah.
It's like as if someone...
That would have been bad. That would have been bad.
I'm just kidding.
Exposed. But it's funny because the day before we were supposed to shoot the rocket launch, but it got delayed because of, I guess they couldn't get the rocket fuel cold enough.
Oh.
So they had to delay it a day.
Weather, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been the weather too. But
Florida, right?
Yeah, Florida, down in Cape Canaveral.
So it could have been the humidity or something that was
Maybe, yeah.
crazy.
I'm no rocket scientist. I'm just a photographer.
It's some crazy stuff.
I just push.
But yeah, so it was cool because that photo ended up on Columbia's website, right on the front page.
Hell yeah, baby.
And that was a proud moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Worth it, man.
Just looking
So
at your
worth
baby,
it.
like,
all worth it.
But a funny thing is that we shot this rocket launch at 1 a.m, right? And we get back, I think it's like 3 a.m. And the art director goes, oh, by the way, we need everything edited by 10 a.m. for publication.
You're like,
He's like, we got to ride this publication wave because like the White House is talking about this and like all these news outlets. He's like, we need the photos and the videos right now.
so you mean you can't like take 3 months to edit it?
No, you can't. So we shot it and we had basically like a 7-hour turnaround.
Damn.
It was crazy.
But
Worth it.
with your experience.
Yes, but with the experience of 12 years, it was no problem.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
You're used to being out there doing long exposures of the night anyways.
Yeah, I mean, you get what you pay for.
Yeah,
You do.
Yeah. It's like if they were to hire some amateur, could they have pulled it off? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
iPhone 14.
iPhone 14. I mean, literally anybody would have been stoked to get that job. Let's be real.
Yeah, yeah. Like
But yeah,
What a cool experience there.
coolest experience ever.
They'll have another one.
I hope so.
It won't be your last.
It won't be the last.
Guy.
Yeah.
Fancy guy over here.
You know, I was working on this other commercial job for this company I can't talk for or talk about. And, you know, we're talking about rocket launches and stuff. He's like, yeah, I've done 17 of them. I'm like, oh, you're cool.
I strive to be you.
I strive to be you. He's like flying drones near the rockets and doing all kinds of stuff. I'm like, all right, you got the one up on me. Fair, yeah.
Like growth opportunities, man.
Yeah, for real.
The world of photography and videography is full of opportunities, though. Literally everything needs to be photographed and captured, whether you're doing special moments for people or whether you're doing rocket launches, like, or product. I don't know. Like, it's just a big, wide world.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. So many cool experiences out there.
we'll have to put together a list, like go home and put together a list of our favorite experiences and talk about that sometime. But yeah, man, I don't have any more nightmare stories though. And honestly, when it comes to everything like we experienced with the TikTok comments on the last one, bring them on. I love that. And honestly, it just gives an opportunity to also educate people to like what the standards really are, because it is really frustrating that there doesn't seem to be any standards in the world of photography, at least in the area of photography that most of us work. I'm not talking about just the commercial realm, because there's more in place there. But in the private photography world and working for just like clients, like
Just everyday people.
Well, I would say too, like if you're not in our world and you don't understand, don't just comment, ask a question.
Yeah.
Like none of us are gatekeepers. We're not gonna, not share some sort of educational information with any of these people.
Especially
so it's like
with standards too, and trying to educate like on the client side, like there should never ever be any gatekeeping whatsoever, especially there, because we really do need to have standards to protect the industry that we're in. Because if you've got 5,000 photographers that people that are just like have a camera and it's a total hobby, versus like, I don't know, like the 30 to 40 professional photographers that are in the same area, like then obviously their voices aren't even going to get heard over here. It's just the standards become whatever gibberish people are spitting out on the internet.
Yeah.
So find a professional. And professionals, you can't just sit in your corner and do whatever you're doing by yourself all the time. You need to educate these other photographers so that maybe they understand where they're going in their career. Otherwise, there's no future to it. So
Yeah, it's like the Wild West out there.
it is the Wild West of photography.
well, the Pacific Northwest is so saturated too. So
Yeah.
It's insane. Well,
that's a
'cause
whole nother
you got trees and waterfalls. Everyone buys a
topic.
professional camera.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
I got one.
Black Friday, there's nothing left on those shelves, man. So,
That's kind of true.
but it's how you use it.
Yeah.
And it's how you
Yep.
look at light, and it's the experiences that you have and how you capture. So, yeah, man. Well, guys,
I think that's it.
I think that's it.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Thanks for
Yeah.
coming on.
Gentlemen, yes.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube,
All over the place.
all over the place, wherever you can find podcasts.
Cool. Until next time.
Until next time, don't forget to rate us 5 stars. See you all soon.
Catch you later.